Look what I managed to source for this week. This was £30 off Facebook Marketplace, and they even delivered. They wanted rid of it so badly. If you're new to furniture flipping and upcycling, then please do this bit really well, because this will make or break your paint adhesion to the surface. A couple of things I wanted to point out just at this stage. When you've sanded your piece of furniture back and you've got a lovely pure wood finish, in this case pitch pine, you've wiped it down, we've got rid of all the sawdust. Two things to say: it looks beautiful and white now, but the real colour when you start to put your varnish on top, or your lacquer on top, or your polyurethane on top, even though they say they're clear, and they are, they will start to enhance the true colour of the wood. And the way you can see the true colour of the wood and the difference in tones between the colours as they've joined each piece of timber is by running a damp cloth over it. If you look there, you'll be able to see how rich those colours start to come out, and that may not be the look that you're going for, and in this case it certainly isn't. So I wanted a whiter wood than this, almost like the sanded effect. And I don't want this rich toned, although beautiful, not for this particular piece. If you're looking at doing an upcycling project at home and you want to uniform these older planks, get the tones to be more like this in its natural sanded state, and we need to put some sort of very light 50-50 paint water ratio paint on here, just to tie everything in a little bit better and to tone down the redness that we've got. So you either want to go, I'm going to be using a chalk mineral paint to do this, and I'll do a 50-50 mix as I said, but I will either use something with a green undertone, because this is coming out really quite rich and rosy, or something with a milky, creamer, whiter undertone to make everything come a little bit more into this uniform sort of colour. Because this is the sort of colour that I want after it's been lacquered, after the polyurethane, not so much the rosy, rich reds coming through. Absolutely love this primer. It stops any bleed through or stains in your final paint, but most importantly, it dries, touch dry within 15 minutes, recoat within 45 minutes. When you're working in these tricky little areas, it's quite handy to have a couple of brushes. I'm using a small 1/2-inch brush and a 1-inch brush here. It allows me to get around the back of all the carved elements to this piece. It's a really good example of how it's okay to change your mind. If you're starting out, or if you decide halfway through that you're going to sell a piece, or if you get an offer on a piece halfway through, you can change the painting at any point. I was originally going for this sort of light, warm overtone, kind of beigey, just so as it had more appeal to most people. And then I was at Chalky Purchase and they wanted duck egg. So I found Dark Duck Egg by Wilko. It's gone on really beautifully. First time using this paint, chalky paint. It's gone on beautifully. I haven't had to water down the first coat at all. I will water down the second coat, but it's got a very nice finish to it straight off. As you can see, I'm doing the inside of the unit as well, just to make sure everything ties in. But one thing to point out, if you do what I'm doing, which is painting any of the drawer areas, what I will do is wax over the top so as the drawer just runs very smoothly without picking any of the paint off. The wax will protect the paint, it'll also give a nice slide runner and almost like a grease, but without it being greasy, in order to sort of lubricate those drawers as they come in and out and keep getting worn over the ages. the inside of the cupboard, this is going to get a lot of wear and tear, and so I don't want to paint it. I'm going to use an oil. I'm going to use Danish Oil in a medium oak. But in order to clean it one last time before I put the oil on, I want to make sure there's no grease, no grime and no dirt left in there. So I'm doing a quick clean with white spirits. So we took the doors off and the drawers out for cleaning and prepping, sanding. But then we need to refit the doors now, because if you can imagine, you've got 2 coats of primer on, then we're going to put 2 coats of top coat on, and then we're going to wax, or we're going to varnish, or we're going to polyurethane. Given all those extra coats that are going on, we need to know that the doors will still fit. In these older cabinets, you will have really tight fitting doors, and as you start to build those layers of paint up, sometimes, and you'll only do this mistake once, you won't be able to shut the door properly because it was already a tight fitting door, and you'll realise where you need to sand back. Let's not have any of those problems, and we will make sure all our doors fit beautifully. If you want to get into small crevices or detailing, carvings like this, and you haven't got one of those circular stipple brushes, you're fine. Just use a standard small brush and make small circular motions. Before we get started on the whitewash, don't forget to damp your surface down. So you can either spray this, but because some of my blue paint is still slightly damp, it hasn't settled yet, I'm going to just use a wet cloth. So I've already prepped a whitewash mix, which is basically a 50-50 mix, and I'm using Perfectly Greige by Wilko. This is touch dry within an hour, but when we're doing a whitewash, 50% mineral chalk paint, 50% water, it'll dry much quicker than that, and especially because I'm working out in the sunshine. So I'm using 2 different brush sizes here, a 3-inch brush, just synthetic, and a 1-inch brush. The 1-inch only because I've got smaller areas to get into. And you'll see that when I use the 1-inch brush, it goes on much thicker. So what I tend to do is go over every area with a 3-inch brush and just spray some water onto the bristles of the brush away from the furniture, and then just start to move around the whitewash. And this gives me more of an even coverage. Finally, get back that wet cloth, because we are going to go all over our whitewash surface. I want it a little bit lighter than this. I want more of the timber coming through when I put on the final lacquer or wax, depending on what I'm going to use. And I want to make sure I've got that sort of lighter toned wood. So take a damp cloth and start removing now as much of the surface whitewash that you don't want. And don't worry if it's already dried. All you have to do is wet your cloth, go over it and apply a little bit more pressure, and it will start to lift. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the like if you've enjoyed this video, get the subscribe button for more DIY tutorials, and the bell will let you know every time we've got a new video out. It's every Sunday evening, and you'll be able to find us and follow us on Instagram. All the details just below. See you next week.